The termination letter hit my desk like a slap. Director Marcus Brennan stood over me, arms crossed, that smug smile stretching across his face. "You should have kept quiet, Caroline," he said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. Around us, the office had gone silent. Keyboards stopped clicking. Phones stopped ringing. Everyone watched, but nobody moved to help. My hands shook as I stared at the paper, the words blurring together. Effective immediately. Violation of company policy. Insubordination. 9 years of my life at Harrington and Associates, erased in one signature. Marcus leaned closer, his cologne suffocating. "This is what happens when you make accusations you can't prove," he whispered. I looked up at him, my throat tight. But I didn't cry. Not yet. I gathered my purse, stood up, and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard him laugh. That laugh would haunt him forever. He just didn't know it yet. "My name is Caroline Torres, and I'm 42 years old. 3 months ago, I reported my director for harassment. I documented every comment, every inappropriate touch, every late-night message that made my skin crawl. I believed the system would protect me. I was wrong. Instead of investigating Marcus Brennan, Human Resources terminated me. They called me a troublemaker. They suggested I was confused, emotional, making things up for attention. Marcus kept his corner office, his 6-figure salary, his reputation. I lost everything. Or so he thought. Because what Marcus didn't know was that I had spent months preparing for exactly this moment. I had evidence he couldn't imagine. I had witnesses he'd forgotten about. I had a lawyer who specialized in cases like mine. And I had something else, the absolute certainty that I would win. The lawsuit I filed didn't just cost him his job. It left him bankrupt. And it made me wealthy beyond anything I'd expected. I wasn't always this prepared. For years, I was the perfect employee. I arrived early, stayed late, volunteered for projects nobody wanted. I trained new hires, covered for sick colleagues, worked weekends without complaint. Harrington and Associates was a mid-sized consulting firm in downtown Chicago. We advised corporations on efficiency improvements, cost reduction strategies, operational excellence. I started as a junior analyst right out of graduate school. By 35, I'd worked my way up to senior consultant. I was good at my job. Really good. Clients requested me specifically. My reports were detailed, my presentations sharp, my recommendations always backed by solid data. I thought hard work would protect me. I thought competence mattered more than office politics. I was naive. Marcus Brennan became director of operations 4 years ago. From day one, something felt wrong about him. The first incident happened during a team meeting. We were reviewing quarterly projections when Marcus interrupted my presentation. "Caroline, you look especially nice today," he said, his eyes traveling slowly down my body. "That dress really shows off your assets." The room went silent. My colleague Tyler coughed awkwardly. Patricia from accounting suddenly became very interested in her laptop screen. I felt heat rise to my face, but I forced a smile. "Thank you." As I was saying, the third quarter numbers show. "I bet the clients love it when you wear outfits like that," Marcus continued, grinning. "Makes the boring numbers easier to swallow." A few people laughed nervously. I gripped my presentation notes so hard the paper crumpled. Under the table, my hands trembled. But I finished my presentation. I smiled through the rest of the meeting. I told myself it was just a joke, that I was overreacting. That's what women do, right? We minimize. We excuse. We convince ourselves it's not that bad. But it got worse. Marcus started scheduling one-on-one meetings in his office after everyone else had gone home. "We work better without distractions," he'd say. During these meetings, he'd stand too close. He'd touch my shoulder when reviewing documents. He'd make comments about my appearance, my clothes, my body. Once, he told me I should wear my hair down more often because it made me look less uptight. Another time, he suggested I'd have better luck with clients if I showed a little more personality and smiled bigger. The comments became sharper, bolder, more frequent. He started texting me late at night with urgent questions that could have waited until morning. He'd add smiley faces, winking emojis, casual remarks that felt wrong. I started documenting everything. Not because I planned to report him, but because something deep inside me sensed I'd need proof someday. The breaking point came during a client dinner 3 months ago. We were celebrating a successful contract renewal with Apex Manufacturing, one of our biggest accounts. The restaurant was expensive, the wine flowed freely, and Marcus was in rare form. He kept refilling my glass even when I said no. He kept making jokes at my expense, disguised as compliments. "Caroline here is the brains of the operation," he told the client. "I'm just the pretty face." Everyone laughed. Then, as dessert arrived, Marcus moved his chair closer to mine. His hand landed on my shoulder, fingers squeezing. He leaned in, his breath hot against my ear. "You know what would really seal this deal?" he whispered. "If you came back to my hotel room tonight." I froze. My stomach turned. Around us, conversation continued, but all I could hear was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over my wine glass. "I need to use the restroom." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table until dawn, staring at my phone. Monday morning, I filed a formal complaint with Human Resources. I wrote everything down. Dates, times, exact quotes, witnesses present. I attached screenshots of inappropriate text messages. I included details of the hotel room comment. HR Director Valerie Hutchins called me into her office that afternoon. "These are serious allegations, Caroline," she said, her expression unreadable. "Very serious." Relief flooded through me. Finally, someone was taking this seriously. "I have documentation," I said. "Text messages, emails, witnesses who can confirm." "The thing is," Valerie interrupted gently, "Marcus tells a different story. He says you've been making advances toward him. That you're angry because he rejected you." My mouth fell open. "That's not true." "That's completely." "He showed me messages where you texted him after hours. Those were responses to his messages. He texted me first." Valerie folded her hands. "The company has decided it's best if we part ways. We'll provide 2 weeks severance." They escorted me out that same day. I didn't even get to clean out my desk properly. Security stood behind me as I shoved personal items into a cardboard box. Photos of my nephew. The coffee mug my sister gave me. A small plant I'd kept alive for 3 years. My colleagues avoided eye contact. Some pretended to be on phone calls. Others suddenly needed to be somewhere else. Patricia mouthed "I'm sorry" from across the room, but she didn't stand up. Nobody stood up. I carried that box through the office, past the conference rooms where I'd given hundreds of presentations, past the break room where I'd celebrated birthdays and promotions, past Marcus Brennan's office where he sat with his feet on his desk, smiling. In the parking garage, I sat in my car and cried. I cried until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. 9 years of loyalty, erased in hours. For 3 days, I barely left my apartment. I ignored calls from my sister. I ate cereal for dinner. I replayed every moment, wondering what I could have done differently. Should I have laughed off his comments? Should I have worn different clothes? Should I have just kept quiet like he said? On the 4th day, rage replaced despair. I opened my laptop and started organizing everything I'd documented over the past 4 years. Emails where Marcus made inappropriate comments. Text messages sent at midnight. Photos from company events where his hand was always on my waist, my shoulder, my back. Meeting notes where he'd made sexual jokes in front of others. Expense reports showing he'd charged personal dinners to the company account, dinners he'd invited me to and claimed were client meetings. Then I found something I'd almost forgotten, a voice memo. 6 months ago, I'd accidentally left my phone recording during a late meeting with Marcus. His words were crystal clear. That same afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler Chen, my former colleague. "Can we talk?" "Not on company devices." We met at a coffee shop across town. Tyler looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder. "I need to tell you something," he said. "About what happened to you." I waited, my coffee growing cold between my hands. "You're not the first," Tyler continued quietly. 3 years ago, there was another woman. Amanda. She reported Marcus for the same thing. The company paid her to go away quietly. My heart raced. "Do you know how to reach her?" "No. But I saw the settlement documents by accident. They were on the printer. The company paid her $75,000. Tyler looked at me directly. If you actually fight this, I'll testify. I'll tell them what I heard, what I saw. So will Patricia. So will others. We were cowards before. We let it happen. But if you're brave enough to fight, we'll back you up." I contacted 8 law firms before I found the right one. Most told me harassment cases were hard to prove. A few suggested settling quietly would be better for my career. Then I reached Catherine Morrison's office. Morrison and Partners specialized in employment discrimination and retaliation cases. Catherine herself had been featured in legal journals for taking on major corporations. Her consultation fee alone was more than I had in savings. But she agreed to meet me. I brought everything: printed emails, text screenshots, the voice recording, witness names, timeline documentation, company policy manuals. Catherine spread everything across her conference table and studied it for 2 hours. Finally, she looked up. "Caroline, if everything you're showing me is accurate and verifiable, you don't just have a harassment case. You have a retaliation case, a wrongful termination case, and evidence of a hostile work environment." She paused. "This is gold. This is exactly the kind of case that changes policies and destroys careers. Are you ready for that?" Catherine worked on contingency, meaning she'd only get paid if we won. For 6 weeks, we prepared. We verified every document, interviewed every potential witness, built a timeline so detailed it left no room for doubt. Catherine's team discovered that Marcus had been accused twice before I came forward. Both times, Harrington and Associates had quietly paid settlements and made accusers sign non-disclosure agreements. The company knew, Catherine explained. They knew Marcus was a liability, and they protected him anyway. That makes them liable too. We identified 7 women total who'd experienced harassment from Marcus. 3 agreed to join as additional plaintiffs. The others were too afraid, which I understood. This wasn't just about Marcus anymore. We were going after the entire company's culture of protection. Meanwhile, I survived on savings and freelance work. Money got tight. My sister offered to help, but I refused. I needed to do this myself. Every rejection email from job applications strengthened my resolve. They'd tried to silence me. Instead, they'd made me unstoppable. While I prepared, Marcus celebrated. According to Tyler's updates, Marcus bragged about firing me. He told colleagues I'd been mentally unstable and obsessed with him. He claimed I'd fabricated everything because he'd rejected my romantic advances. She was always throwing herself at me, he told people in the break room. I had to protect myself. He spun the narrative so effectively that some people actually believed him. New hires who'd never met me heard only his version. They probably imagined some desperate, unhinged woman making false accusations. Marcus even got a promotion. 2 months after my termination, he became vice president of operations. Bigger office. Bigger salary. More power over employees, especially young women who didn't know his history. His arrogance would become his biggest mistake. Because arrogant people get sloppy. And Marcus was about to get very, very sloppy. Then the Whisper network activated. Women I'd never met started reaching out through LinkedIn, through mutual connections, through anonymous email accounts. Each one had a story. He cornered me in the supply room. He sent me a photo I didn't ask for. He told me promotions come easier for women who are friendlier with management. Some incidents were recent. Others went back 8 years. The pattern was unmistakable. Marcus targeted women who were ambitious, hardworking, and unlikely to report him because they valued their careers too much. Catherine documented every account. Even those who couldn't officially testify provided crucial context. By the time we finished, we had a file 6 inches thick. Marcus thought he'd been careful. He thought he'd only harassed women who were too scared to fight back. He'd miscalculated badly. Because scared people talk to each other. And when they realize they're not alone, they become brave together. 3 months after my termination, Catherine filed the lawsuit. The case had multiple components. Sexual harassment, hostile work environment, retaliation, wrongful termination, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and corporate negligence. We sued Marcus Brennan personally and Harrington and Associates as a company. We demanded compensation for lost wages, emotional damage, and punitive damages to punish the pattern of behavior. The filing made local news. Former employee sues consulting firm for harassment and retaliation appeared in the Chicago Tribune business section. That evening, my phone exploded. Former colleagues texted support. Some apologized for not standing up earlier. A few told me I was brave, though I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. The next morning, Marcus called me. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Caroline, this is insane. You're destroying your own reputation. You'll never work in this industry again. Drop the lawsuit, and maybe we can work something out. I saved the voicemail. Catherine added it to our evidence file as witness intimidation. Marcus fought back with everything he had. His attorney launched a smear campaign. Suddenly, rumors spread that I'd been fired for poor performance, for missing deadlines, for conflicts with colleagues. Anonymous posts appeared on industry forums calling me vindictive, unstable, a liar seeking attention. Former friends at Harrington and Associates posted vague social media messages about false accusations ruining innocent lives. My anxiety spiked. I stopped sleeping well. I gained weight. I avoided grocery stores and restaurants where I might run into former colleagues. My sister found me crying in her kitchen one afternoon. What if I can't prove it? I whispered. What if his lawyers are better? What if the jury believes him? She grabbed my shoulders. Then you tried. You stood up when others couldn't. That matters. But some days, I wasn't sure it mattered enough. Some days, I wanted to drop everything and disappear. Then I'd remember his hand on my shoulder at that dinner. His breath in my ear. His smug smile when security escorted me out. I forced myself to remember why I started this fight. I pulled out the termination letter and read it again. I listened to the voice recording where Marcus made crude comments about my body. I reread text messages from women who'd thanked me for having the courage they couldn't find. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who'd sat in that office and felt powerless. Every person who'd been told to keep quiet, to not make waves, to accept unacceptable behavior for a paycheck. I started exercising again. I called a therapist who specialized in workplace trauma. I rebuilt my routine, wake up at 6, meditate, review case files, prepare for depositions. Catherine's team coached me on testimony. Tell the truth clearly and calmly. Don't let his attorney rattle you. The evidence speaks for itself. By the time depositions began, I was ready. More than ready. I was determined to make sure Marcus Brennan never hurt another woman again. The first day of trial arrived on a cold Tuesday in November. I wore a navy suit my sister helped me pick out. Professional, confident, serious. Catherine met me outside the courthouse. Remember, the truth is on our side. Just stay calm and answer honestly. Marcus arrived with his legal team, 3 attorneys in expensive suits. He looked confident, almost amused. He probably thought his money and lawyers would make this disappear. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. The jury, 8 women, 4 men, filed in and took their seats. Judge Patricia Hendricks reviewed preliminary motions, then Catherine stood to make her opening statement. This case is about abuse of power, she began. About a man who used his position to prey on women, and a company that protected him at the expense of its employees. For the next 20 minutes, she laid out our case with devastating precision. Every document, every witness, every text message. Marcus's confident smile began to fade. The prosecution's first evidence was Marcus's text messages. Catherine projected them on screens for the entire courtroom to see. Working late tonight? I could use some company, winky face. You should wear that red dress more often. Really shows off your figure. Why are you being so cold lately? I thought we had something special. The jury's faces shifted. Several women frowned. A few people shook their heads. Then came the voice recording. The court listened as Marcus's voice filled the room. You know, Caroline, you'd go a lot further in this company if you were nicer to me. And I don't mean professionally nice, if you catch my meaning. The jury gasped. Marcus's face went pale. His attorney scrambled to object, but Judge Hendricks overruled. The recording was properly authenticated and admissible. That could be taken out of context, Marcus whispered urgently to his lawyer. But there was no context that made those words acceptable. And everyone in that courtroom knew it. Then our witnesses testified. Patricia from accounting went first. Her voice shook, but she was clear. I heard Director Brennan make inappropriate comments to Caroline at least a dozen times. Once, he joked that she should sit on his lap during a meeting. Tyler came next. I personally witnessed Marcus touching Caroline's shoulder and back repeatedly. She visibly tensed every time, but he never stopped. Amanda, the woman who'd settled 3 years earlier, broke her NDA to testify. He did the same thing to me. The company paid me $75,000 to stay quiet. They knew what he was, and they let him keep doing it. One by one, 5 women total took the stand. Different years, different circumstances, identical pattern. By the 3rd testimony, 2 jury members were crying. Marcus's attorney tried to discredit each witness, but Catherine had prepared them well. The evidence was overwhelming, documented, irrefutable. Marcus squirmed in his chair. His confident demeanor cracked completely. He kept whispering to his attorneys, who looked increasingly worried. Then Marcus's attorney made a crucial error. He put Marcus on the stand to defend himself. Marcus tried to appear calm and wronged. I never harassed anyone, he stated firmly. Caroline misinterpreted professional friendliness. She developed feelings for me, and when I maintained appropriate boundaries, she became vindictive. Catherine cross-examined him mercilessly. Mr. Brennan, you claim Caroline misinterpreted your behavior. Let's review your text message from March 15th where you wrote, "You'd look better in my bed than in that conference room." How should that be interpreted professionally? Marcus's face flushed red. I was joking. Joking. And the text where you asked her to come to your hotel room during a business trip? She's taking it out of context. His voice rose. Mr. Brennan, please answer the question. This is ridiculous. Marcus exploded, slamming his hand on the witness stand. I'm the victim here. She's ruining my life because I rejected her. Judge Hendricks gavelled sharply. Mr. Brennan, control yourself. But the damage was done. The jury had just seen his rage, his arrogance, his complete lack of remorse. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Catherine and I waited in a small conference room, barely speaking. When the bailiff called us back, my legs felt weak. The jury foreman stood. On the count of sexual harassment, we find in favor of the plaintiff. On the count of hostile work environment, we find in favor of the plaintiff. On the count of retaliation and wrongful termination, we find in favor of the plaintiff. I couldn't breathe. Catherine squeezed my hand. The foreman continued. We award compensatory damages of $400,000 for lost wages and emotional distress. We award punitive damages of $2.3 million against Marcus Brennan personally, and $3.1 million against Harrington and Associates. The courtroom erupted. Marcus went white. His attorneys looked stunned. I started crying, but this time from relief. Judge Hendricks banged her gavel. Order. This court finds the defendant's actions egregious and deserving of substantial penalty. The awards are affirmed. It was over. We'd won. Justice, real justice, had actually happened. The aftermath was swift and brutal for Marcus. Within 24 hours, Harrington and Associates terminated his employment. They issued a public statement condemning his behavior and announcing policy reforms. Marcus's wife filed for divorce. His LinkedIn profile disappeared. His professional reputation was destroyed. The $2.3 million judgment against him personally meant liquidating everything. His house went into foreclosure. His investment accounts were seized. His retirement savings vanished. 6 months later, I heard through Tyler that Marcus was living in a small apartment, working a low-level job at a retail store. The man who'd bragged about firing me, who'd called me unstable and vindictive, had lost everything. Meanwhile, Harrington and Associates offered me an additional settlement of $800,000 to avoid further litigation. I accepted. The total amount, nearly $4 million after legal fees, was more money than I'd ever imagined having. The bankruptcy proceedings against Marcus were finalized that fall. He was officially broke. Destroyed. Finished. I used the settlement money wisely. First, I paid off my student loans and my sister's mortgage. Then I started my own consulting firm, Torres & Partners, specializing in workplace culture improvement and harassment prevention. Companies that wanted to avoid becoming the next Harrington and Associates hired me to audit their policies, train their managers, and create safe reporting systems. My first year, I landed 8 major contracts. My second year, I hired 4 employees, all women who'd faced similar workplace challenges. The business grew faster than I'd planned. Turns out, there was enormous demand for someone who actually understood what harassment looked like and how to prevent it. I spoke at conferences. I wrote articles for business journals. I consulted with law firms on harassment cases. The same industry that tried to blacklist me now wanted my expertise. I bought a condo overlooking Lake Michigan. I donated to organizations supporting workplace equality. I rebuilt my life on my own terms, stronger than before. 2 years after the trial, I received an email from a personal account I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "I'm sorry." Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from Marcus. The message rambled for 3 paragraphs. He claimed he'd been in therapy. He said he understood now what he'd done. He asked for forgiveness, not for himself, but so he could move forward with healing. The final line read, "Please, Caroline. I've lost everything. Can we talk?" I stared at that email for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell him exactly how his actions had affected me, to make sure he truly understood the damage he'd caused. But then I realized something: my silence was more powerful than any response I could write. He wanted acknowledgement, absolution, some sign that I'd heard his apology. Instead, I deleted the email and blocked the address. Marcus Brennan had taken enough of my time, my peace, my life. He wouldn't get another second. That silence, that absolute refusal to engage, was my final victory. And somewhere in his small apartment, knowing I'd seen his plea and chosen not to respond, that silence became the shock of his life.